Looking at live pictures coming in right now from Missouri, Blackwell and St. Clair, where in the next few minutes the skies will go completely dark as the moon eclipses the sun. Welcome back to our special coverage. I'm Wolf Blitzer in Washington. Also joining us, Chad Myers, Stephanie Elam, Kaylee Hartang, David Dvorkin, Chris Hatfield. Chad, what's happening right now? Where is this total eclipse?
Well, we've just lost totality over Casper, just north of Cheyenne, back into almost Scottsbluff, Nebraska, Grand Island, Wood River, Aurora, back toward Lincoln, Nebraska, and then finally sliding off into Missouri. So we're right in this area where you're starting to gain more in the way of eclipse here, and we're starting to lose the eclipse back out here. And in the middle part of the country, that's where we're seeing most of the rain showers. This was an absolutely perfect place to be for this eclipse. This, not so perfect because the showers popped up in the warmer part of the morning and they're kind of hanging around. We'll get back to Stephanie in a bit. But if you're in Nashville, or one of the biggest parties in America is going on right now, you have perfect weather there. Knoxville, back on over to about Columbia into South Carolina and eventually into Charleston. This is a beautiful swath of no cloud cover at all right here. And then finally you get toward the shore and that's where the rain is back. And there are so many people right now, Isle of Palms, Charleston, to the north of Savannah, just south of Myrtle Beach, all being disappointed by that rainfall. They have an hour to make that go away. Sometimes the sea breeze can make it go away, Wolf, but we'll have to see. One thing I want you to notice, if you're in Central Park, if you're in Chicago, if you're in Dallas, if you're getting part of the solar eclipse, I want you to look down under a tree, and I want you to notice that everywhere there should be a little circle of sunshine, that should be the sun, there's going to be a crescent shape there. So all these little pinhole cameras we tell you to make, every place there's a pinhole in a tree between the leaves, every one of those little shadows will be in the shape of a crescent. Pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool indeed. Stephanie, you're there in St. Joseph, Missouri for us right now. There were some weather issues. How's it holding up?
It's not. You actually just have to laugh about it at this point, Wolf, because it is really coming down now. But you know what? Our non-fearful Australian friends, let's go back and talk to them, because you've been to more than one eclipse, right?
Yep.
And there are a lot of people who are leaving here now, even though we've still got about 15 minutes to go until we hit totality. Are they being premature?
I think they are, because part of this eclipse experience is experiencing totality, where things go quiet, animals go away, like it goes dark, people get really excited. It's quite an event in itself.
So even though, I mean, it looks like we're not going to get any breakthrough of the clouds. It looks pretty covered up now.
Yeah.
You still think that it's worth being here?
Oh, definitely.
How far in advance did you plan your trip?
Probably about 18 months.
8 or 9 months?
Yeah.
And
no, 18 months.
18 months, even worse. Okay, so 18 months in advance, you plan to be here in this field in St. Joseph, Missouri, where it's now downpouring. And according to our meteorologist, Chad Myers, he said this is the worst place we could have chosen to be based on the weather, not based on location.
Yeah, well, when we did the planning, we based it on the statistical weather data, which showed that this is a good place to be this time of the year normally.
So, all right, but you're still are hopeful for a good eclipse.
Well, definitely. We won't see it, but we'll feel it and experience it because it'll go dark. So
if that optimism does not inspire you, Wolf, he is still optimistic, even though we're standing here in the rain and wet pretty much from the top down.
He's a very good man indeed. I'm glad he made the trip over from Australia, because he's inspiring all of us. Stand by, Kaylee Hartang. Kaylee, you're in South Carolina for us, Isle of Palms. You're getting ready to experience a total eclipse of the sun. What's it like?
We are, Wolf. We are staying dry here, just hearing Chad talk about the rainfall that some parts of the South Carolina coast are experiencing. We are staying dry here for now, though the sun is covered in clouds. If you put on your glasses and look up, you can begin to see the eclipse taking shape. And what we are seeing take shape is this sand sculpture we told you about earlier. 5 hours of work by a local architecture firm, but this sculpture has come together. I want to bring in Norman Jean Page, who has organized the big event that Isle of Palms is experiencing today. Norma, how long has planning for this day been underway?
We've been planning for over a year, not knowing what to anticipate, but it's been a fun ride. We've enjoyed it. We're excited about today. The crowds are probably biggest we've had in a long time, are similar to our 4th of July, but larger. So it's been fun.
Well, I'll be standing by for 2:46 p.m. Eastern, Wolf, when everyone in Isle of Palms is expected to experience that total eclipse.
Yeah, less than an hour or so from now. We'll be watching it every step of the way. Chris Hadfield is still with us. He's joining us from Brisbane, Australia right now. He's a U.S. astronaut, a former commander of the International Space Station. This is a moment that folks like you wait for all the time, Chris, because it is so powerful and indeed, shall I say, emotional.
Well, the entire experience of leaving Earth and flying a spaceship is very technical. It's very difficult, but it's also immensely personal, Wolf. And for the 6 crew up on the space station right now, they are right overhead Fiji, right at this very moment, racing across the Pacific. And I know that all 12 of their eyes, all 6 of them, have their eyes staring straight ahead in order to be able to see as this shadow is crossing across the U.S. They'll make landfall in about 15 or 20 minutes, and they will have every camera they can get, every sensor they can have, so they can get as much science out of it as possible, but not to miss the personal experience of seeing something so rare and so ethereal.
Yeah, it's a major moment. Everybody who goes through it feels that personal touch. And David Dvorkin, you felt it several times.
Oh, yeah.
Even I can see you're sitting next to me. You're feeling it right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even when I did go to an eclipse, an annular eclipse, was when the moon is a little too far away, so its apparent diameter is smaller than the sun, and so you get a ring, a complete ring. And we went down to Richmond, Virginia, because there was supposed to be one at the Berkeley Plantation south of there. And we sat out at the Berkeley Plantation, and it was cloudy completely, but it still darkened, and we got that darkening. We walked away from there, though. I had the best fried chicken I'd ever had.
After you saw what was the name of that?
Annular.
An annular
Yeah,
eclipse.
I used to think when I was a kid it was an annual eclipse. Why doesn't it happen every year? But no, it's annular.
We waited 99 years for this total eclipse to move all across the United States, from Oregon through the Midwest down to South Carolina. Do we know when the next time this will occur, when we will see this kind of total eclipse move across the United States?
Absolutely, and it'll be 2024. And
that's pretty close. That's not that far away.
It's really very close. And in fact, Carbondale, Illinois is going to see it again because its totality in both of the paths. The next one is going to go from the southwest to the northeast, starting in Texas, ending in Maine. And it's going to be just as spectacular. In fact, even a little longer. Because
when you say longer, what does that mean?
Well, that means that the moon is a little closer to the Earth at that time.
So instead of 2.5 minutes, it might be 3 minutes?
That's right.
That could make a big difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Tell us why.
Well, the more করে you have to watch this eclipse using your scientific instruments, of course, the more data you can collect. And also the sun is such a dynamic engine that it's changing every 1/10 of a second, and looking at those processes in detail during those short periods of time can be extremely valuable. For the rest of us, just every second of this experience is indelible.
And people are already gearing up for that next eclipse, 2024?
Oh, I know some of my colleagues are already talking about where are they going to start, in Texas or Maine.
Well, that's it for me. I'm going to end our coverage, at least for now, but we're not going to leave our coverage. Anderson Cooper is sticking around. I will leave Anderson with this challenge. Anderson, you can see my solar eclipse lenses right here. I want to see what they look like on you as well. Anderson Cooper picks up our special eclipse coverage right now.
Wolf, thanks very much. I'm Anderson Cooper. This is CNN's continuing coverage of the historic event, the day the sun disappears. We've already just seen some incredible moments over the last hour or so. Just moments from now, parts of Nebraska and Missouri will see the moon shadow fall on the Earth as it passes between us and the sun. The nation is witnessing, this is the first total solar eclipse from coast to coast in 99 years. It's history in the making. A short time later, those on the East Coast will get to experience all the excitement for themselves, depending on your vantage point. You'll see the moon completely block the sun's entire surface in what's known as totality. Obviously, do not forget to put on your special eclipse glasses. Let's begin with our CNN's Chad Myers. Chad, we've already seen incredible moments as a number of places have reached totality.
Especially Salem, Oregon, about an hour ago when our Miguel Marquez was there, and people were cheering, and I wanted to kind of take the hair in the back of my neck and knock it down because it was standing on its end, just the way it said how dark it got, and you could see stars and see. Well, here's where it is right now, and this is what we're talking about for 2 p.m. or 1 p.m. Central Time. We're talking about Grand Island, Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, down toward Beatrice and all the way even into Nebraska City. That's where totality is right now, and moving closer and closer to St. Louis and eventually over toward Nashville. But this is taking a long time, or at least it seems like it takes a long time, until you get to totality, and then 2.5 minutes later, it's over. But the totality is what it's worth waiting for. The sun is going to be getting better, coming out stronger as soon as we leave St. Joe, Missouri, get toward Columbia, Missouri, and parts farther to the east. By the time we get to, I would say, Knoxville or Nashville, completely sunny skies, and so we're going to continue this for another hour and a half before it finally moves completely offshore. The shadow, Anderson, is right now moving at 1,700 miles per hour. Shadow's 70 miles around, but it is haul in the mail across the United States right now.
That's just incredible. Millions of people obviously able to witness this firsthand. We're going to be showing it to you all over the next hour and a half. We have reporters stationed throughout the country, of cameras in a lot of different places. CNN Stephanie Elam is in St. Joseph, Missouri. Some bad weather there. What's happening where you are, Stephanie?
Anderson, the most amazing thing happened. Like, there is this tiniest, the most infinitesimally small hole in the clouds. It opened up just in time for us to see the eclipse. And totality is hitting right now. The light is changing. People are cheering. They're so excited because the clouds the rain stopped and the clouds opened up right now. If you were to look up and put your glasses on, you can actually see the eclipse. I mean, it's amazing, Anderson, because it is. I was standing in the rain. Like the top half of my shirt is completely wet. It stopped just in time for us to see total eclipse. Just about. We have a couple more minutes to go, but it was enough here that the people who stuck out through the rain started to cheer, started to clap, applauding the clouds to get out the way for just that little window. Outside of that, trip for 18 months to come stand in this field from Australia, and they are so excited. Like, it's worth it. Everything is worth it. And they told me, don't just look up, also look around you, because you'll see the lighting change, and that is completely what it is like here. And it's really, really just the most amazing thing to see. It's 1:04, so we have like 2 more minutes until we actually get to the total eclipse. But I can tell you, for the people who decided to stick it out here, ooh, it's really getting dark right now. If you can, I don't know if you can
we
see
can
it
actually
as well
see.
as I can.
Yeah, we can see it getting darker on you. Is it getting colder as well? Because Miguel Marquez was saying where he was in Oregon that the temperature was dropping about 5 to 10 degrees.
Yeah, my body temperature's off because I'm wet, because I've been standing in the rain, but I actually do think it is getting a little bit cooler. But what is most astonishing to me is the excitement that you can palpably feel in this field because of this, because the darkness just happened so fast, and because we were able to get that small glimpse into the clouds. In some ways, I don't know, it almost feels like it's more exciting than what Miguel may have had, because they were able to see it so clearly. We thought we weren't going to see it at all, and then to be able to look up and just to see that little sliver of the moon coming in before. Oh, and here it comes on that side. What? That's the shadow coming. So see, people here are so happy to talk. Okay, so tell me, this is how dark. Is this your first one or no?
Yes, first one.
First one? Worth it. So you see how dark it is, Anderson? You can actually see how dark it's getting. Can you see that?
It's amazing. Yeah, it's
Can
amazing.
you hear the cheering?
Yeah.
It's amazing. This is the most phenomenal thing I've ever seen. It is amazing. And the actual cheering of all the people in this crowd, they were prepared for some 15,000 people. The private airport here even had some private jets that were going to come in and land to see it if the weather looked good. We saw about 20 minutes ago one plane take off. We also know that a lot of people were here. They started to leave early, and they may have missed out because this is spectacular. And that one little hole that we were able to see of the eclipse is just amazing. It's like we're standing out here at nighttime.
Yeah, we can barely see you, except we can see car lights behind you.
Yeah, and like here, I'm going to turn this way a little bit so you can maybe see a little bit more of the lighting change here in the distance where there's some rain. You can kind of see the difference. And people are asking everybody to turn their lights off so that they can see it. And there's fireworks going off in the distance that way too. People are cheering. This is fantastic. I'm just going to let you listen to the cheering for a little bit. It's a huge payoff after all the rain and the clouds. We didn't think we were going to get to see it at all, but this is spectacular. It's beautiful.
Hey, Stephanie, but how many people are there, do you think?
Oh my gosh, right now you can actually see. Oh my gosh, it's really exciting. Right now through the clouds, you can actually see the eclipse. I know I sound like a little kid, but there's very few things when you're my age that excite you this much. And this is pretty darn exciting, Anderson.
I mean,
It's
to be there,
spectacularly beautiful.
to be there must be extraordinary. Even to watching on TV when it was happening in Oregon, I jumped up from my seat to get a closer look on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, there's few things, right, when you're this age. Oh, can I show this? Greg, remember, photojournalist Greg, come take a look at this. He got a shot. I don't know if you can see this. This gentleman here, where are you from, sir?
Topeka. My brother and my sister and brother-in-law are from Austin, Texas.
Okay, so from Topeka, so you made a shorter drive than some of the people that are here. This is your first eclipse?
I was actually alive in '79. I lived in Oregon, so I was a little bit younger.
What are you feeling right now?
Oh, this is unbelievable because I really don't remember the '79 one. I'd probably get ahead for 24 down to Texas and see the one down there.
And see, this is what I've been hearing from other people too, Anderson. It's starting to lighten up again in the sky. Once you experience one solar eclipse, it kind of get addicting. And you start traveling around, like the gentleman, Sandy, that I was talking to from Australia. This, like 4th or 5th, I think he said it was. And so he has been traveling around following it, and it's now starting to get really bright again here, coming from one side.
Come on!
People cheering for Mother Nature here, the celestial beings. But it, as quickly as it got dark, it is now starting to get light here again. Absolutely phenomenal.
Stephanie, just incredible to watch you. And it seems to be passing because the light is obviously getting it's getting brighter now.
It's starting to get brighter. You can start to see, if you look out behind me, it's like otherworldly. I can still see fireworks going off in the distance. So in Missouri, they're having a great time with this, with the darkness and taking advantage of it. But yeah, it's happening quickly. I can see the light coming back quickly now. Oh, there it is. You can see it again. You can now see the light coming out on the other side of the moon, and just barely through this tiny little hole in the clouds, just giving these people here just enough to enjoy this. There it is. And so for the payoff for the people who planned so hard and so long to be here. I know at this airport, they started planning this 4 years ago or so to make this possible. And for the people who've been planning for it, bought their tickets to fly here, talked to one group of women that flew here from New Jersey, to have this happen and for it to still have that payoff is a huge deal. It's something that, most Americans can revel in. And here in the path of totality, I think we had the worst weather, but we still had a really great time.
Stephanie, thank you so much. I want to bring in David Dvorkin from the Smithsonian and also Adriana Ocampo from the Science Mission Directorate who are joining us. We're still watching now Blackwell, Missouri, where we're next going to be showing you the totality. Also, Chris Hadfield is an astronaut, is joining us as well. Chris, have you ever seen in person a total eclipse like this?
I wish I'd had the chance to see a total one. I've seen partial eclipses And it was really interesting for me as a young person to see that actually happen. I held up the little piece of tinfoil and watched the sun be covered partially by the shadow of the moon, like so many people are across North America right now. And it really made me think, it made me picture it all, nothing theoretical, but something real, the sun and the moon and the earth, my place in that. I think for a lot of people, it was great to hear all that excitement because it takes patience to see an eclipse. And it was great to hear that excitement because I remember it myself for the first time picturing what's actually happening around me in the solar system.
David Dvorkin, you're a senior curator with the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. You know, a lot of people, when they come to your museum, which is just an amazing museum, have that same sense of actually touching, something that's been up in space or being close to something that's been up in space. There is this very personal nature to what is happening across the country now today. People out in fields together, joining together, and actually kind of witnessing science. It doesn't happen very often in people's lives.
That's absolutely right. You're experiencing a piece of the true cross here. It is an experience that is indelible. It's personal. You'll carry away that experience for the rest of your life. And it was just amazing hearing that crowd.
It's got to make you, as someone who obviously, has dedicated your life to science, to see so many people interested in this moment, it's got to feel good.
Absolutely. When we started planning for this, at least a year ago, it was pretty far in my mind. I had plenty of other projects to worry about, but the educators kept at it. Our astronomy educators are just absolutely gifted, and they knew exactly how the building of the excitement was going to end up in what is just phenomenal at the museum. I've never seen so many people. I've never seen them so excited.
Adriano Campo, now on the left-hand side of the screen, we're seeing Blackwell, Missouri, which has not yet reached totality. Also then later on Nashville, which will be about 10 minutes or so after Blackwell. Blackwell, we should be getting totality in about 5 minutes, I believe, 4 or 5 minutes. Can you just explain, Adriano, what's happening just in Blackwell? We're only now seeing just a sliver of the sun. Can you just, for those who are just joining us, explain how we are able to witness this? Explain how it is that the moon is able to block out the sun in this way.
Well, it's an extraordinary moment. Really, I've been fortunate to been able to experience totality several times, and it's been extraordinary. I mean, the moment in which we're viewing right now, in which the moon crosses, is just at the right distance from the Earth to be able to cross in front of the sun and occult, completely the sphere of the sun. We cannot see it anymore. And right now we are in those precious moments just before the moon is completely occulting the sphere of the sun. And the important thing is when that happens, then we can get to study the deepest part of what we call the corona of the sun that is not easily visible. So it's very significant for scientific investigations.
Yeah, Chris Hadfield, what can science learn from seeing the corona like this? Which is, again, I mean, the corona always exists, but to actually see it is rare.
In 1859, there was a huge explosion on the sun. We call it the Carrington event. And it was in that corona, we call it a coronal mass ejection. And a huge blob of energy came from the sun and enveloped the Earth. And even at the time, it caused havoc. Some of the telegraph lines across the United States, they caught fire. There was so much electricity going through our magnetic field. So to try and understand that corona, to try and be able to predict events like that, to understand the physics of the sun itself, this isn't just a beautiful human event and an exciting thing to see personally, but it's really important scientifically. And so everybody's taking, like never before, advantage of this to really try and glean all the information we can from this rare view.
David, it's so remarkable when you think, I mean, the sun is 93 million miles away. The moon is 238,855 miles away. But because of that, they're the same angular size in this moment, one blocks the other out.
That's right. And it is really quite a a wonderful little apparition, which won't always be the case. You come back in a few million years, the moon is going to be a lot farther away from the Earth, and so we won't get any more of these solar eclipses. We're experiencing it now in our age, really quite a wonderful thing. But I want to add to what Chris was saying. The 1859 Carrington event, of course, telegraph lines melted down. There was a great disruption, amazing aurora, continued for a long time. In the more recent past, these coronal mass ejections have caused power outages, other kinds of disruptions. The most important thing we have to understand is that our society today is far more susceptible to these coronal events than it was in 1859. I mean, we may have had telegraphs, but think of what we have now that's susceptible to this kind of interruption, like our satellites.
David, we're looking at Blackwell, Missouri, where there is totality. Just explain for viewers exactly what they're seeing. Obviously, the moon has now moved in front of the sun from our vantage point. But the corona that you're speaking of, that is what is coming off the sun all around.
Right. You're looking at the structure of the inner corona. That is the you might consider it the outer atmosphere of the sun. You know, when you look at the sun's a great globe of glowing gas. It's not a solid surface, and that technically is an atmosphere. But that atmosphere continues out millions of miles into space, and we can only see it in this kind of an eclipse when the great brilliance of the surface, I should say visible surface of the sun, is blocked out. You know why that occurs? I mean, the moon itself doesn't give off any light at all. You know, people ask, well, gee, you know, when the full moon looks real bright, well, yeah, the full moon is something you see because the sun is shining on it. But when the moon is between the Earth and the sun, that shiny face is facing away from us, and we have the night side that we are seeing blocking out the light of the sun.
So, David, just from a science standpoint, what are our scientists right now looking at? I mean, as we're watching this image from Blackwell of totality at 1:18 p.m. Central Time, what would scientists be looking at?
The big question is, what causes how does energy transfer from the sun itself, from the photosphere and from inside the photosphere, out into that chromospheric area? And how is it transferred, and what are the physical processes that take place in there? And we want to be able to see as precisely as possible what triggers these flares, these explosions. And if we can get an idea of what triggers them, then we can get more of a predictive mechanism for determining the existence of what Chris was calling coronal mass ejections.
So, David, for all we know about the sun, we don't know. There's still a lot we don't know about what causes these flares.
Absolutely, we can now predict some types of flare events 14 hours in advance, which isn't bad. Oh boy, here comes that. Here it comes. Oh, I love that. That's
what is that now?
Well, we call it Bailey's Bead. Astronomers call it Bailey's beads because there was a guy named Bailey who first described them. But that is, I love it as the diamond ring effect. And you would see that visually just for a few moments in the sky, but you have to run and immediately put your glasses back on because you're looking at the full atmospheric effect of the sun, and it is just so overwhelmingly bright.
Yeah, the totality is really the only time you can take your glasses off and look for that 2 minutes or so
exactly.
Without endangering yourself.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And the best way to take on the glasses or take them off is don't look up at the sun and then put the glasses on. Put the glasses on first and then look up at the sun.
Right. And for those who don't realize, the glasses are completely blacked out. Essentially, if you were wearing glasses just on the street, you would not be able to see anything.
No, that's quite right. And if you can see something, then I wouldn't use them on the sun.
Then they're not going to be effective.
That's right.
So the totality, David, only lasts for about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, correct?
That's right. In this particular eclipse, if the moon were closer to us at the point of totality, then we would have a longer eclipse. Some of the eclipses I've been to have been as long as 4 minutes.
Wow.
Well, that was a lifetime, let me tell you.
I can imagine, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I also want to bring in Chad Myers. We've now had totality, Chad. We just saw it at Blackwell, Missouri. Now the shadow is moving somewhat off the sun. Next, Nashville, Tennessee, we're going to have in about 6 minutes from now. But just, I mean, Chad, just to witness this is so exciting, even if for people who may not be interested in science or know much about astronomy. It's an extraordinary thing.
Just to get the volume, to get the ambiance of people screaming and cheering and chanting, even with Stephanie, where they only had maybe 10 seconds worth of actual eclipsing they could see. If you're looking at the eclipse picture on your screen and it looks in the shape of a C, that means it's still coming. If it looks the opposite way, that means it's already over. But I want to get back to what the good doctor was talking about these eclipse glasses. This is a flashlight that I brought from home, just a regular LED flashlight, pretty bright. Now I'm going to take one lens from a very expensive pair of sunglasses that I have broken and put it here. And it doesn't take very much of that light out, relatively, about 60 or 70%. Now I'm going to take this light and put it on the lens itself of the solar glasses. And Anderson, I can get right there to that TV. You cannot see that LED shining through that at all. It's absolutely dark. When you look through these, you see nothing except a little bit of sun.
I know, Chad, I don't know if you see the image out of Nashville, and it's a good reminder of what you said, that if it's a C, it's still to come. If it's a reverse C, it means the totality has already passed. So we're also now on the left-hand side of the screen got an image from Kentucky, where obviously it is also yet to have reached totality. And it looks like we have some cloud cover now in Nashville.
And that was a very, very big party. Just about maybe a week and a half ago, I tried to book a hotel room for one of our other meteorologists here in the building in Atlanta. The closest hotel room that was available 10 days ago was 40 miles from Nashville. The entire city was sold out. So this is an event, and also a financial event for some of these towns that never see this many people. Obviously, Nashville sees a lot of tourism, but some of these towns like St. Joseph's, Carbondale, Illinois, don't see this many people in a given year, and they've had this many hotel rooms sold out and other things sold out for weeks or sometimes months and years in advance.
You can see the crowd in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, where it looks like they're just about to reach totality as well. Let's see. Do we have sound on that? Let's see if we can hear in. Listen.
Wow. It's just getting really close to nighttime. It's incredible. It's like very dim.
Definitely it feels like dawn or dusk here in Hopkinsville right now as it's getting closer.
Come on! And you can see on our feed, there's that tiny, tiny little sliver left to go. And it's really starting to get dark now. Wow. It's like dust.
Gracious.
And you can see the pink color around the horizon. Oh, it's like a sunset. It's beautiful. It's going. It's going. Just that tiny, tiny last sliver. Oh, my goodness.
And we are in total solar eclipse, and this is absolutely breathtaking.
Yeah, you can see the corona, that beautiful white wispy crown coming out from the sun in all directions. And we can see airplanes, and I think I see Jupiter in the sky over there. I think I can see Jupiter.
Wow.
And I see other planets too, and stars.
I can only imagine in ancient times what this must have been like.
I know.
Out of nowhere. I am covered in head to toe in goosebumps, a complete chill.
I know, I am too.
Body.
I just can't believe we finally got a chance to see it. I mean, it's one thing to read about it, but it's another thing when you get to see it yourself with your own eyes.
Guys, we're going to take a break here just a second. We're going to step back and fully enjoy this and hope you enjoy our feed on the telescope.
I want to bring in our Miles O'Brien. Miles, as we watch this extraordinary moment of totality from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, what goes through your mind?
We just had the experience of totality here in Irwin, Idaho, Anderson. I've seen an annular eclipse before, back in 1994, and covered that for CNN and enjoyed that. But there was something about this, and I'm not usually at a loss for words. I'm having a hard time coming up with words to describe what I experienced. You know, obviously we've all seen these pictures and videos over the years of what an eclipse looks like, what the corona looks like. It was the combination of that sight with you know, through protection, of course. I was using number 14 welder's glass. By all means, people, use protection to look at it. But then when I took it away during the moment of totality, it was the visual experience coupled with all the other senses coming at you that just weren't right. Here it was, the middle of the day, little afternoon, the sun high in the sky, hot as it can be. The temperature dropped about 20 degrees. And there was this, before it happened, almost this kind of bluish light, which was surreal. I can't really explain. I've never seen light quite like that. And then it got instantly very dark. And everything about your kind of, it must be like a deep limbic brain thing, is telling you something very wrong is happening, almost a fight or flight response. In a sense, in a primal way, you're saying to yourself, this is just not right. And yet, the minute it was over, all I wanted to do was see another one.
And Miles, just this moment right now from Hopkinsville, Kentucky, where the sun is we're starting to see the shadow move to the left, and the flares are just coming out. It's such an extraordinary moment. Cameras always have to readjust because obviously the flares grow in intensity very quickly.
You know, the corona there's a lot of scientific interest in the corona because it's actually hotter than the surface of the sun itself. No one knows why that is. The corona is what generates solar storms, which can wreak havoc on our power grid and on our satellite system. But what it was really for me, and what it is for those people just now, the sense that they're just cheering it, is it's just beautiful. It's just gorgeous. You're seeing the sun like you've never seen it before. That corona is there every day of the week, but you never see that. And it extends many diameters farther than the sun itself. And that's what amazed me.
Yeah, it's incredible, David Dvorkin, as we continue to look at this image from Hopkinsville and just now starting to see some more of the sun, to realize that the corona is there all the time, but we're unable to see.
That's right. But what's really exciting is just over this short period of time, watching it from the West Coast here, and that's something, by the way, I've never seen in my life, is watching it in progress over this amount of time. Why the chromospheric activity, the prominences that we saw out in the West Coast, we don't see now on the East Coast, and that means that the sun changes very, very rapidly. And we want to be able to get a close-up shot of those changes during the eclipse time, and that's what is so exciting to see, is that change over short periods of time.
And you really do. I mean, it's been commented on today, David, but you think about, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, before people really knew exactly what was happening in parts of the world where people didn't know what was happening, to just think back what that must have been like for people to suddenly see the sun blotted out.
Absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of legends about how there was a war between the Lydians and the Medes, and of course a solar eclipse just happened to take place. And they thought, my God, there's a message, we better stop fighting because somebody's not happy. But more to the point, the first coronal records were drawn, in the 10th century, although I'm sure that they were seen before then. But after that, everybody was wondering, well, what is this corona? Does the moon have an atmosphere? And by the 19th century, it was pretty clear that it really wasn't the moon's atmosphere, it was the sun's atmosphere. And so it became an extremely important thing to study.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to take you to Washington, D.C. President Trump is going to be watching the eclipse from the White House balcony. We'll bring you that and more moments of totality from across the country. We'll be right back.
Coverage of the eclipse is proudly presented by Volvo and the all-new XC60.